Something has been trying to reach you for years. Not from outside, from somewhere far more intimate. And without realizing it, you have spent most of your life doing everything possible not to hear it. Your body has been sending you messages. Not symptoms to fix, not problems to diagnose. Messages. And somewhere along the way, you decided it was safer to ignore them than to actually listen. Carl Jung spent decades studying what happens when the mind and body split apart. What he found wasn't comforting. He said that the body never lies. Only the mind learns to pretend it doesn't hear. You know the exhaustion I mean. Not the kind that disappears after a good night's sleep. The kind that's still there in the morning. Heavy, quiet, waiting. The kind that no vacation seems to fix. Sometimes the body speaks before the mind catches up. A tightness in the chest during a conversation that should feel fine. A headache that arrives every Sunday. A stomach that tightens the moment you walk through a certain door. Pay attention to that pattern. Because what most people call anxiety, Jung would have called the unconscious trying to speak. Your body is not malfunctioning. It is communicating. And it has been doing this for a very long time. Every unexplained ache holds a memory. Every tension pattern carries a story. The body is not separate from your psychology. It is the deepest archive of everything you have ever felt, and everything you refuse to feel. Most of us learned very early that certain feelings were not welcome. You cried, and someone told you to stop. You were angry, and the room went cold. You were afraid, and someone called you weak. So you buried it. You didn't bury those feelings because you were weak. You buried them because you were smart. Because at 6 years old, the most important thing was love, and love required you to become someone acceptable. But here is what Jung understood that most people don't. You cannot hide from yourself forever. The mind can learn to avoid. The body cannot. Whatever you push down will eventually push back, through tension, illness, numbness, or collapse. The problem is not that your body is broken. The problem is that no one ever taught you to read its language. So instead of listening, you've spent years medicating, distracting, or powering through, and wondering why nothing feels quite resolved. Jung had a phrase that has stayed with me. What we don't face within ourselves, we meet as fate. The psyche, he believed, has no wastebasket. Everything you suppress simply changes address, moving from the mind into the body, from consciousness into symptom. He called the repository of all we hide the shadow. Not evil, not pathology. Simply everything we deemed unacceptable about ourselves was quietly placed in the dark. Your anger, your grief, your need, your longing. All of it, waiting. Jung observed that the body becomes the voice of the shadow. When something in you cannot be spoken, it will be felt. When grief cannot cry, it becomes a weight in the chest. When rage cannot speak, it becomes a migraine. When longing has nowhere to go, it becomes fatigue. This doesn't mean every illness is psychological. That would be simplistic and often cruel. But it does mean that the body is never psychologically neutral. It always participates in your story, and sometimes it holds the chapters you refuse to write. Think for a moment about the physical complaint you've had the longest. The one your doctor can't quite explain. The one that comes back whenever a specific kind of stress arrives. Have you ever asked that pain what it's actually holding? You may have heard the phrase, "the body keeps the score." What that actually means is that your nervous system never forgot what your conscious mind decided to move on from. Trauma doesn't live in the past. It lives in the body, in the present tense. Every physical symptom has an emotional architecture beneath it. Not always, but often enough that it's worth asking. The question is not, what is wrong with my body? The deeper question is, what has my body been trying to protect me from knowing? There's a pattern most people never notice until someone points it out. Their back goes out during family visits. Their throat tightens before difficult conversations. Their energy collapses when intimacy gets close. Coincidence, or the body's own language? Here is a truth that cuts. Chronically suppressed anger doesn't disappear. It turns inward. It becomes the immune system attacking itself. It becomes the jaw that clenches at 3 a.m. It becomes the body in a state of permanent, low-level war with itself. And perhaps the deepest message your body carries is this: there is a version of you that was never allowed to exist. It was told it was too much, too sensitive, too loud, too sad. That self didn't die. It went into the body, and it has been knocking ever since. The beginning of healing is not therapy, not supplements, not even meditation. The beginning is much simpler and much harder than any of those. It is the willingness to stop moving away from what the body is trying to tell you. Listening to the body is not mystical. It's not crystals and incense, though those are fine. It is the practice of pausing when the symptom arrives and asking, what is happening in my life right now? What am I not saying? What am I refusing to feel? Jung called this process of going inward the descent. It's not comfortable. It requires sitting with what you've avoided, but what you find when you go down isn't the monster you feared. It's the part of yourself that has been waiting to be found. What if the pain wasn't your enemy? What if it was the most loyal part of you, the part that refused to let you abandon yourself completely? Every symptom has been trying to bring you back to something real, back to yourself. Learning to read your body is not quick. It is a practice of daily patient attention, not obsession, not hypochondria, simply the habit of asking, what is my body holding today that I haven't permitted to be spoken? Healing often feels like thawing, numbness giving way to sensation, constriction giving way to breath. It isn't always comfortable. In fact, it rarely is. But the discomfort of thawing is different from the pain of staying frozen. One leads somewhere, the other doesn't. There is a moment in this process, and you will know it when it comes, when the body simply sighs. When something that was held for years suddenly loosens. When the tension in a place you'd stopped noticing finally releases. That is not a weakness. That is the arrival. Jung never promised that integration would make you feel perfect. He promised something better, that you would become more whole, that the parts of yourself you'd exiled would be welcomed home, that the war inside would quiet, not because you won, but because you stopped fighting yourself. When you begin to listen, really listen, something unexpected happens. The body stops shouting, not because the message was resolved overnight, but because it knows, finally, that it has been heard. The symptom softens, the pattern shifts, the cycle begins to break. Jung was not dismissing medicine. He was addressing something medicine too often misses, the story beneath the symptom. The patient who comes in with a headache may also be a person carrying 3 years of unsaid grief. Both things are true. Both things matter. There is a particular kind of loneliness that doesn't require being alone. You can feel it in a room full of people. It lives in the chest, just below the sternum, a hollow weight. The felt sense of being unseen, even by yourself. Some people don't feel their bodies because they never stop moving. The busyness is not ambition. It is avoidance. If you sit still long enough, something might surface, and you decided long ago that you couldn't afford for that to happen. The body's geography is worth examining. The lower back often holds what you refuse to ask for support with. The shoulders carry what you feel responsible for, but cannot put down. The throat holds what you couldn't say. This is not a metaphor. This is a pattern, documented, observable, and deeply personal. Unprocessed grief is one of the heaviest things a body can carry. Not because grief is abnormal, but because our culture rarely permits it. We are taught to recover, to bounce back, to process quickly and return to function. And the body pays the price for that bargain. Jung believed that becoming yourself, truly, fully yourself, was not optional. He called this individuation, not self-improvement, not optimization. The process of becoming who you actually are, beneath the performance, beneath the conditioning, beneath the person everyone else needed you to be. And what happens when individuation is refused? When the call to become yourself is answered with more performance, more persona, or more suppression? The psyche does not forget. The body remembers. The life contracts. And the symptoms grow louder. So here is the question Jung would have asked you. If your body could speak without filters, without fear of judgment, without the pressure to seem fine, what would it say? And are you willing to actually hear the answer? You don't need a pilgrimage. You don't need a dramatic breakdown before the breakthrough. The return begins in small acts, in asking, what do I actually feel right now? In pausing before answering, I'm fine. In sitting with discomfort for 30 seconds longer than usual. One of the most healing things you can offer yourself is permission. Permission for the body to have known something your mind refused. Permission to have been affected. Permission for the wounds to be real, even if no one stamped them official. This is the shift Jung was pointing toward, from seeing the body as a problem to be solved, to experiencing it as a partner to be understood. Not an obstacle, not a liability, an ally that has been trying all along to guide you home. The messages have always been there. In the tension, you dismiss it as stress. In the fatigue, you push through. In the symptom, you medicate and move on from. Your body has not been failing you. It has been waiting for you to remember that it speaks. And perhaps what your body has been trying to say, beneath all the pain, beneath all the tension, beneath all the years of being pushed aside, is simply this: I am still here. I never left. Come back. You are safe to return to yourself now. Jung once observed that the greatest tragedy of the human condition is not suffering itself, but suffering without meaning. And here is the meaning. Your body's language, when finally understood, has always been pointing you toward the same destination: yourself. So I'll leave you with the only question that matters. What is your body saying right now, in this moment, that you have not yet permitted yourself to hear? Because somewhere inside you, something already knows the answer.